Welcome to the IDEEA podcast, a channel for the IDEEA Hospitality Investment Forum, which is an annual gathering for the hospitality investment community in Eastern Europe. Tune in to insightful conversations between the IDEEA team and hospitality investment leaders and innovators across Europe. And now, let's dive right into today's episode.
Hi everyone, welcome to IDEEA podcast. Today it's my great pleasure to welcome Thomas Emanuel, Senior Director from STR. We've been working with STR for many years now, and STR has been very supportive. Thank you so much, Tom. It's a pleasure to have you here once again.
Good to be here and lovely to see you.
Tom, you're based in London, correct?
I am, yes, I'm in London today.
So we've just talked a little bit. Tommy, your travel arrangements now for the second part of the year are crazy, just like it was pre-COVID?
100%. It kicks off next week for me. Conference, which is great. It's great to see the industry getting back together. It's great to obviously be able to do it. There's no restrictions. I haven't got to take tests or fill out forms or anything. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a busy few months until Christmas. It'll be Christmas before we know it. But yeah, it's nice to get back to normal. And as you say, if I think back to 17, 18, 19, it feels exactly like it did then. Just airport, hotel, conference, airport, hotel, conference.
Just before we started recording this, I started writing a LinkedIn post and I wanted to announce you. And I was looking at the market performance outlook presentation that you always do, and you're going to do the same in Athens on September 26, 27 at IDEEA. And I realized that the audience is always so keen to hear what you have to say. It is just amazing how data is important and how much we actually like to hear what is going on, what is happening with not only our market, but the competitive market. So let me start with a question. Hotel business has been really volatile in the past 24 months. What are the locations in Europe where you saw the fastest and slowest return rate in terms of ADR and occupancy rate, of course, in comparison to 2019?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think to answer that, I think it's important to sort of set the scene a little bit in terms of obviously where we're coming from. And as you rightly say, incredibly volatile. We all know what's happened. We've never seen anything like that before for our industry. But 2022 has been the year really we're getting back, let's be honest. And I think what we've seen some continuations of patterns from 2021 in some ways. So certainly leisure markets have continued to do well. They continue to drive a lot of the demand, as has domestic business, as has so going into more regional markets, there may be international hubs. We have to remember as well, when we look at the data and we think about where we are sort of July year to date, coming into August as well, we've got to remember when we use 2019 comparables that actually the first couple of months of the year were still poor. You know, it seems like a long time ago now to us all because we're back out there, we're traveling, we're meeting people, but we were basically in lockdown because the Omicron variant was raging. January and February were still incredibly challenging for the hotel industry across Europe. So we've seen, as that has lessened, as restrictions have lifted, we've seen the return of city demand and corporate demand. Less so group demand. That's taken a little bit longer to come back, but going back to what I was just saying, we're certainly going to see a return of that more strongly in the latter half of the year as all of these conferences and events are returning to the market generally. So I think it's been a good last few months. The summer was very strong for the industry across Europe as a whole, and we're confident for the rest of this year. I think we've still got we've kind of removed ourselves from the COVID cloud, and now we've got the cost of living cloud that we're going to have to be tackling as an industry, and that's obviously something that we're going to be looking at. But in terms of who's recovered more quickly, if we just sort of start on a countrywide level, I think a lot of those trends that I mentioned are feeding into to what you would expect to see. So actually, when we look across Europe and compare to 2019, if you look at the occupancy, if you look at the top performers, it's really, you can kind of put it into three main buckets, I would say. Those that have got a very strong domestic demand base did well. So the UK, for example, has got a strong domestic demand base, but then we can go far to the east and we can see markets like Armenia, Kazakhstan have actually performed relatively or very well in comparison, because again, a lot of that is domestic demand. Also, those that have predominantly been driven by leisure demand. So Turkey has led a lot of our European leaderboards over the course of the year. Cyprus also doing well, but not just the Med. If you go up to Iceland, again, compared to 2019, it's doing very well. And then those that lifted their restrictions earlier obviously had a faster recovery. So UK, Ireland lifted things a bit quicker than much of continental Europe. So we have seen, if we look year to date, markets like Austria and the Netherlands, which were a bit slower to lift the restrictions, they recovered a bit later, so their data looks a bit softer. But as we moved more towards the present day, again, those markets are doing relatively well. And I think the other area, which is still a bit of a differentiator for some markets, thinking about countries like the Czech Republic or Hungary or Germany, the reliance on groups. So as they recover, we will see those numbers get better as well. So that's kind of occupancy. If we move to have a look at rate, well, I think all of us know that have been looking at data and looking at the market, rate has been skyrocketing in many cases.
Yeah, significantly increased.
Significantly above. And it's, of course, partially that's driven by inflation, as you would expect, but it's also being driven by demand, people's needs and wants to get back out into the market after years of being locked down, and less restriction to pricing, less resistance to pricing, I should say. But we've seen rates up across the board, back up above 19 levels, but some standout markets, certainly I think are in the Mediterranean, which I think is fantastic as we look forward to the IDEEA conference, of course. Greece, Italy, Portugal, Croatia, your home country. Also France doing pretty well from a rate perspective, but across the continent it's looking good. But those are some sort of star markets. And I think actually Italy, I didn't mention on an occupancy perspective, but if we look at a lot of Italian markets as well, they've done very well this year. So Italy's been a strong performer.
So I actually think it's going to be very interesting to compare numbers now and at the end of the year. As you said, Germany, Hungary, that depends on this MICE market or the group market. It will be now that events are really coming back. And as you said, it's the travel to events in September, October. You can just see the lineup in Europe. It's going to be very interesting to see the difference.
Absolutely, and we're pretty bullish about the rest of this year. I think a lot of that leisure demand had been kind of pre-booked. It's been in the works. I mean, I know a lot of my friends have taken holidays that they booked in 2020, and they've only been able to take it this year. They've had to postpone and postpone and postpone. Yeah. So, and I think as well from a corporate perspective, we've been away from our clients, we've been away from our contacts. We want to see people again. We want to network, and the conferences are coming back online. So yeah, touch wood, we should be in for a pretty good autumn.
We're really happy to be in Greece this year. Tom, you mentioned a couple of countries, but do you see any cities within Europe that actually went rocket high, that exceeded all of the expectations?
I think saying rocket high and exceeded all expectations is a bit too bullish. If I look at sort of our cities and I kind of rank them from top to bottom, actually, what we're seeing at the top are actually a lot of towns as opposed to cities. And when I say that, obviously what I'm implying is that it's those regional markets that are predominantly domestic driven. They're actually the ones that have, in comparison to 2019, had the strongest occupancy return anyway. But if we then take a step back and look at kind of the global gateways, the key European markets that we talk about year in, year out, I think there are some standouts. I think Istanbul has done phenomenally well. I mean, that's got a strong domestic market. It's got fantastic accessibility through Turkish Airways, but other airlines as well. 2 big airports. leisure business, MICE business, corporate demand, it ticks all the boxes. So Istanbul's been very strong, as has Warsaw, another standout market from my perspective. Occupancy-wise, it had an awful lot of new supply coming in over recent years as the Polish capital's grown and attracted more demand. So Warsaw's done very well, and then actually Paris over recent months, obviously a top tourist destination in the summer, but has all those other demand drivers doing well. And then what we've seen coming back as well, London, Dublin, Edinburgh, referring to UK and Ireland generally being quite strong. So those are kind of some key ones. And then I think from a rate perspective, it's kind of much what I said previously. Paris, again, doing exceptionally well, growth on 19, and then other standouts when I look at our sort of leaderboard, Athens, and then Florence and Rome as well, doing well. So again, markets sort of looking at the region that the IDEEA conference is looking at have generally performed pretty well from a rate perspective. But
wonderful.
Yeah.
But now we always talk about hotel performance, but you do not only collect that data, you do actually much wider set of services. So can you just share with us a little bit of what type of data you offer? And I know that Hotel Destination Report is one of them, which is very interesting because you can also measure your performance against another competitive destination. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So I think at STR we like to see ourselves, and I think we do see ourselves as a one-stop shop really when it comes to hotel data, to understanding the market. We are there, and obviously I think everybody's very familiar with the top line performance that we bring to the market. So we look at occupancy rate, RevPAR, and then we break that down by daily, weekly, monthly data. You can look at that by different classes as well, different how they're performing, as well as down to sort of a competitor set level. So you can get very granular information, but it doesn't just stop there, as you rightly say. So we also track profitability data on a monthly basis and an annual basis, and our profitability sample of hotels is growing month on month. Segmentation as well, so we can understand group, transient, and contracted business. We have robust data there. We forecast, of course. Often I finish my presentations with what we think is going to happen, doing that both on a custom basis but also on a market level, working in conjunction with our friends at Tourism Economics on that. In addition, though, it doesn't just stop there. One thing that we've really been pushing over recent years, and I think it's been so pivotal as we've come into and subsequently out of the pandemic, is business on the books. So we can look at what occupancy is on the books, those spikes for events, those what have regularly been weekend spikes because of the leisure demand driving business and so forth. So business on the books is another real focus point for us. And of course as well, you'll be many in the industry will be used to hearing us talk about supply. We have our database. I think it's certainly the most robust database globally, looking at existing and future supply. So we can look at the pipeline. We know what's coming into the market, which is obviously ever so important to understand investment trends and then also anticipate how that's going to impact performance. In addition to that, that's sort of, I would say, our core, but then we've also started doing some consumer sentiment surveys, which have been fascinating to see consumer sentiment evolve over recent years, recent months, as we've obviously been in uncharted territories. And then something else which maybe people are less familiar with, but STR was acquired by the CoStar Group back in October of 2019, and they look at commercial real estate across all asset classes. So not just hospitality, which is obviously the piece of the pie that STR fulfills, but across key global markets, UK, Canada, and the US, but expanding internationally as well. We've also got this part, so we can look at retail, we can look at industrial, we can look at offices as well, exactly. So different asset classes. So, that's really the future. We're going to be looking at one amazing platform with all of our data integrated. That's what we're working on, we're working towards. And it's an exciting future within the CoStar Group for STR.
Well,
so lots of data.
I think that's really interesting, because if you talk to many of the developers and investors now, and also the operators, you can see how offices together with hotels are merging in some way. And maybe Zoku is the best example, where you have, as they say, it's during the night, it's a hotel, during the day, it's an office building almost. You can actually utilize the room as two-way space. So it's I think it's going to be very useful actually to have the data from all these asset classes that maybe in future will all be some kind of mixed use.
Absolutely, I think that's going to be pivotal, and there are other benefits as well to the hospitality industry when we're looking at this kind of thing. If you're thinking about your demand drivers, and you're looking at offices, who's in those offices? Who's likely to have visitors taking rooms? Are you likely to be able to sell your C&B space? Can you host F&B events? Who's in your neighborhood? What's the demographics look like? What else is happening? What are other demand drivers? What are other developments? All of that is going to be housed within this platform, which I think is going to be incredibly beneficial for our industry. And as you say, with more and more mixed use projects coming and more different ways of looking at the hospitality industry that we've seen, with brands evolving and co-living, co-working and so forth, I think it's
all coming together, kind of.
Exactly. And I'm excited. STR is going to be at the forefront of being able to deliver that data and that analysis.
Tom, you will be delivering one of the keynotes at IDEEA in Athens. I know you already shared some details about the region, and I see more and more brands coming in the entire region. So that means that your data is going to be even better, because mostly the brands I know are definitely the companies you work with. Is there anything specific, anything very interesting that you will present to us? And you not necessarily need to share now, because then you won't have the surprise to share the event, but maybe you can just share a little teaser.
Well, I hope everything that I present will be interesting for you. And I would just add in there, yes, we do work with all the brands, but we do work with a large number of independent hotels and locally run and managed properties as well. I'll be providing the standard stuff that you'd expect from STR, but it will be the very latest data. So we'll be able to really look at how was the summer, which is so important for many markets across the region that IDEEA looks at, but also and look at that from a city perspective and as well from a resort perspective as well. And then, I've said we're pretty bullish about the coming months, but we'll bring some data to the party about that, our forecasts, our business on the books as well. And I think what I'll be looking to do is marry that up with the consumer sentiment data as well. I think that's something we found really quite powerful, talking to our traveller panel, as we call them, who provide all of this insight, and then showing actually how that is relating to what materialises for the hotels and for the operators. So, we'll be bringing all of that to the conference. Certainly, the state of the market. We'll probably drill down in Athens a little bit. Obviously, our host city, which has done very, very well of late, and hopefully help set the scene for a lot of the conversations and discussion that we'll have throughout the couple of days we're all together.
Exactly, and I think everyone will be very keen to listen to the entire presentation, but the forecast part is going to be very interesting, because everyone is saying now the summer has been really amazing in the region, but then the utility prices going up and the entire situation, everyone is kind of a little bit, I wouldn't say scared, but just, waiting to see what will happen. So I think your insights will be very useful.
I hope so. And I think, as I said earlier, we're very conscious that is really the next big challenge for our industry. Sky high inflation and cost of living, energy prices and so forth. What's that going to do to disposable income and for businesses as well as individuals? So very much front and centre for us as well, as we look to move forward.
Tom, it was really nice to have you here. I wouldn't go any further because I think you'll say everything in Athens. So let's just wait and hear you there. It's thank you again for supporting and being part of HF and IDEA for all these years. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you in just 25 days.
25 days, is that okay? Well, I'll look forward to seeing you too, Marina. It's been a while, so yeah, look forward to catching up and looking forward to the conference and seeing everyone as well. I'm sure it'll be a great few days.
Thank you. Have a great
Thanks.
day.
You too.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the IDEEA podcast, the channel for the IDEA Hospitality Investment Forum. You can find a full transcript of this conversation in the content library on idea-forum.com with other reports and insights. We look forward to welcoming you and your colleagues in person at IDEA in Athens, Greece on the 26th through 27th of September 2022. If you haven't registered yet, please go to idea-forum.com to purchase your pass today and save before ticket prices increase. Please feel free to email us with any questions at hello@thebench.com. Until the next episode, stay safe and keep well. Bye-bye for now.